going, everybody? This is Phil, and this is the review for episode 6 of season 2 of The Mandalorian, entitled The Tragedy. This is chapter 14 of the overall story. So let's get started right away. The episode picks up with Mandalorian and Grogu. They're in the Razor Crest, and they're making their way to Tython. And we get this nice little exchange between two characters here where the Mandalorian seems to be really enjoying the fact that he now knows the child's name as Grogu, and he calls to him a couple of times, and it actually makes him chuckle. Grogu has that little knob on the lever, and the Mandalorian, he takes it from him, and he does the little trick where he makes Grogu reach for it and bring it to him using the Force. And when he does it, the Mandalorian gets really excited, and Grogu he doesn't understand that the Mandalorian is actually happy, and then he's just like. He's like, no, it's all right. He's like, you're a special kid, and it's really actually this nice little moment because the Mandalorian is like, that. It's funny because he refers to Ahsoka as that nice lady, and he's just kind of like having this moment where he's telling Grogu that we're going to bring him to this place now, and he's going to go to the Seeing Stone, and he's going to reach out in the Force, and if somebody comes to train him, then he's going to have to go with them, and this is the way it's going to be, and I can't train you, and you're too powerful, and it's you get the feeling that the Mandalorian is not really explaining this to the child, but he's almost kind of talking himself through it because he's at the point now where his mission is over for all intents and purposes, and he's starting to get used to the idea of saying goodbye, and he is coming to the realization that he genuinely cares about this child that he's been protecting for the last 2 seasons of this show. So it's a nice little moment there when you read between the lines. So they make their way down to the planet of Tython, and we get this really nice shot. Again, great establishing shots in this show. They're flying down, and we can see the remnants of this Jedi temple, and they're just kind of panning around it, and there's really no way to land the Razor Crest. So, the Mandalorian's like, we're going to have to fly in, with the windows down. So he goes and lands the ship, and they cut to the Mandalorian flying in, holding the child, holding Grogu, with the, flying in on his jetpack. And they get there, and they're in this shrine, this area with the Seeing Stone right in the middle there. It's kind of like this semisphere just embedded in the ground with all of these kind of glyphs, hieroglyphics, just kind of like a band of it that goes around the whole entire sphere. And the Mandalorian's, he's kind of looking around. He's like, I don't know, does this look Jedi to you? So he goes ahead and he places him on top of the stone, and he's like, all right, kid, do what you got to do. And he just kind of like sits there, and he's looking around. Butterfly comes over to him, and it's kind of like, come on, take care of what you got to take care of. And at that moment, we could hear a ship coming in through the atmosphere, and you look up, and it's Slave One, and we're like, oh shit, here we go. So the Mandalorian turns around. He's like, we got to get out of here. And he turns around. You can see now Grogu is completely encased in this force field surrounding him, this blue light that's going up into the sky. And he's essentially, at this point, reaching out with the Force across the galaxy and to see if somebody will respond back. I mean, he's all into it, right? So the Mandalorian, he makes his way down the mountain to kind of, I guess, buy the kids some time, and he takes some fire. He covers behind a rock, and lo and behold, it is in fact Boba Fett. And we saw him briefly in episode 1 of this season, and then there was some question of whether or not it was going to be Rex or Cody or another clone trooper, but no, this is the character that we saw in episode 1 very briefly, and he says, yes, this is Boba Fett. That's my armor. You got it off a Cobb Vanth. It was my father, and it was handed down to me, and it's rightfully mine. The Mandalorian, he asks if he is, in fact, Mandalorian, and he says, I'm just a simple man trying to make my way through the galaxy like my father before me. Which is kind of like that one line is like a nice little nod, obviously, to the prequels as well as the original trilogy. It kind of brings both of those trilogies together in one little line, and a nice little wink, if you will. So the Mandalorian is like, nope, not going to happen. And Boba Fett reveals that out of nowhere, which is like a holy shit moment, Fennec Shand is now a part of his little team there, and she's perched up on a rock ready to take out the child if things go sideways. And apparently, in the episode The Gunslinger, that was in fact now confirmed to be Boba Fett, as I had mentioned. And he saved Fennec Shand. He rebuilt her. She was left for dead, and she's got some type of, if the Star Wars, if we could take inspiration in our real reality or our real life, the Star Wars universe, the one thing they've taught us is that, like, a disability can be overcome with technology, regardless of anything. I mean, so Fennec Shand, she exposes it, it's like a whole midsection was just rebuilt, and so she's indebted to Boba Fett, which is why she's now there with him by her side. And Boba Fett basically says that, look, man, I don't want your armor, which is what the Mandalorian had mistakenly thought originally. He goes, I want my armor. You give me my armor, and we'll ensure the safety of the child as well as your own. So with that, as they're having this conversation, we see a ship kind of fly down and lands right where the Razor Crest is, and the door opens up, and it is a whole team of cannon fodder. It's just stormtroopers. They just come pouring out of this ship, and they start making their way up the mountain because they're trying to get to the child. So there's the standoff between the Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and Fennec Shand, and they have the high ground, so they have the advantage, and they're obviously far more skilled than the stormtroopers. Everyone is far more skilled than the stormtroopers in the Star Wars universe. So they're making their way up, and the Mandalorian's taking him out, and Fennec Shand she's a crack shot. This is not only the title of this episode should not only be the tragedy, it should be the redemption, because Boba Fett is made to look so badass in this episode. First of all, he starts taking out these troopers in close quarters with his gaffy stick. And I always thought the gaffy stick was just kind of like this weird looking, just ugly, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's a gaffy stick, who cares, it's just a dumb, stupid spear. This guy uses this stick. He wields this gaffy stick with such viciousness and force and precision. It makes it look like the baddest the baddest staff that you could ever possibly wield in the Star Wars galaxy. And he's cracking stormtroopers across their helmet, and they're exploding into pieces. It's so satisfying. I mean, he's just wasting these guys left and right. So the fight continues on. They cut to Fennec Shand, and she's making her way down the mountain while the stormtroopers are making their way up, and they've assembled like a large rapid fire laser cannon, so they're hailing down on her, and she gets pinned down, and she's able to this large boulder gets loosened up in the exchange, and she's able to kind of send it hurtling down towards them. And then we cut back to Boba Fett, who's still with the gaffy stick, just I mean, as a melee weapon. He's just like murdering everyone with this stick. And he's at the point now where he's right at the Razor Crest, and you see he turns around and he looks at it. He's like, I'm getting my armor. So we could see that another point, another ship lands with more stormtroopers, and I mean, it just becomes like these overwhelming odds. The Mandalorian is like, we got to get out of here. He can't penetrate this force field. He's getting thrown back. So he's like, all right, I'm going to try to buy you some more time. He makes his way back down to the mountain. He ends up encountering Fennec Shand. They team up, and they start taking out as many stormtroopers as they possibly can, and to the point where they're completely overwhelmed by the numbers. And then you just see a thermal detonator drops on the ground, stormtroopers are taken out, and then boom, Boba Fett lands on the ground. He's in his armor. I mean, it is such like a fan geek out moment. And you get like almost the full display of like what his armor can do. I mean, again, this is like, because Boba Fett gets so much shit in the movies for like being an ineffectual character. I mean, in Empire Strikes Back, he's really cool, right? And he accomplishes his mission, and he hands over, Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt, and then in Return of the Jedi, I mean, he basically just ends up getting knocked into Sarlacc by an errant whack on the back of his jetpack by Han Solo, who's half blind at that point. So it did a lot to undermine the badass of this character, the badassery, if you will. And in this episode, it's just like he lands and he is just taking out stormtrooper after stormtrooper, and not just like in a way where it's just like he's just shooting them and picking them off. I mean, he's still, the way that he fights is so brutal. Even with long-range weapons like blasters, he gets right in on them and he just like puts it up into their gut and blasts them and just sends them hurtling out of the screen. He is so vicious and so brutal in the way that he conducts himself as far as combat is concerned, whether it's with close-quarter weapons or with laser blasters, whatever the case may be. They made him so vicious, and it's really, really cool. It's really, really satisfying as a fan just to see this character get his due on screen finally. So again, thank you very much, Favreau and Filoni, and Robert Rodriguez, who directed this episode and did a great job. I mean, the guy does really good with action, and this was an action-packed episode. So after we finish up with the awesome fan service, feel-good Boba Fett kicking ass moment, the stormtroopers, they get the hell out of there. They retreat, and they load up onto both shuttles. They're making their way out of there, and one last blast from Boba Fett as he launches the missile from his jetpack, takes out the one ship, careens into the other one. They're both destroyed. Mandalorian's like, nice shot. He's like, I was actually aiming for the other one. And then like moments later, you just hear this blast come screaming from out of the atmosphere, piercing through the sky, and then it cuts to the Razor Crest, and it completely disintegrates his ship. And I'm just like, holy cow. Like this ship, I mean, it just got rebuilt. I mean, it's in pristine condition, right? I mean, it's like top to bottom, this thing has been refurbished, and it just completely gets, I mean, blown away. Like, there's nothing left but a crater. There's a couple of parts, I mean, and that's it. So then we cut to Moff Gideon, who this episode, Giancarlo Esposito is doing, like, he's totally channeling Darth Vader. I mean, he's, the way they have him standing there at the bridge, he's looking out, commanding all the forces, and he does the quick sweep and turnaround with the cape, and very reminiscent of Darth Vader, which I'm cool. If you're gonna play an homage to a character, and I like Moff Gideon as a villain, and if he's gonna play little slight homages to Darth Vader, why not? I mean, it's fun, and some people might miss it who are just casual fans, and the fans who have more of a keen eye, they're gonna pick up on it and they're gonna enjoy these little touches like this. So anyway, he launches the Dark Troopers. They fly down. And unfortunately, the Mandalorian took his jetpack off when he first encountered Boba Fett as part of the standstill, so they could engage in conversation. So now they have to make their way on foot, Fennec Shand and the Mandalorian, and they get up there just in time to see the Dark Troopers take Grogu and fly off. And Boba Fett, he gets back to Slave One. He starts chasing them. He's got him locked on. He can engage. And then Mandalorian says, no, don't, you gotta protect the child. I don't want to injure the child or anything like that. So Boba Fett says, okay, affirmative. He's like, I'm just gonna do a follow along just to see where they go to. And as he's following them, you see he gets through the atmosphere, and then you see Moff Gideon's ship, and he's just like, the Empire is back. He's like, what are you talking about? The Outer Rim is under jurisdiction of the New Republic. He's like, no, this isn't a spice stream. I think he called it that. He's like, this isn't a spice stream. So he just like turns around, makes his way back to Tython, and then we see basically the Mandalorian. He's standing in the crater of what used to be where the Razor Crest was, and he's just kind of going through the rubble and the wreckage, and there's just kind of a few parts scattered here or there that he could even manage to pick up and handle. One of them happens to be the little ball that he finds, that he has that connection with between Grogu and himself, and in the vehicle, and then he manages to find the spear that's made out of Beskar. And from there, makes his way over to Boba Fett. He's like, look, let me show you something. And he shows him an encryption that was built into the armor that shows that, his father was actually Jango Fett, who was a foundling, who had fought for the Mandalorians, So the Mando says, this armor rightfully belongs to you. Then we're even. It's all good. And then Boba Fett said, no, we promised you that the child would be safe. The child is safest when he's with you. So until that happens, we're going to see this through to the end, which is like, hell yeah. So now it's the Mandalorian, it's Boba Fett, it's Fennec Shand, and now they're on a mission to get the child back from Moff Gideon, which is like, this show just like, for me, at least as a fan, totally kicked up another level here. Like I'm geeked out about the next 2 episodes and what's yet to come. So with this now being the situation at hand, the Mandalorian knows that he has to go. He has to track Moff Gideon's ship, and he needs somebody that can help him do that. So he makes his way back to the planet of Navarro, which means we can only see 1 or 2 people if we're going to go back to Navarro. That's either going to be Grief Cogger, or it's going to be every whack job's favorite who wants to see her off the show, Gina Carano. Oh, shut up. So he goes into Gina Carano's office there and sees that she's now a New Republic marshal, and he goes, look, I need information on Mayfield. He needs information on Mayfield, who is one of the prisoners from the prior season, and played by Bill Burr, and he needs to spring that character in order for him to track Moff Gideon's ship. And Cara Dune's like, look, I can't do that, essentially. I got to play by the rules. And he's like, they have the child. And she just kind of looks up, and that's where it ends. But you figure at this point, she's gonna go against what she should do, and she's gonna help the Mandalorian out. And then next it just cuts to the end. We're on Moff Gideon's ship, and he's making his way down the hallway, and you could hear some kind of screams and some kind of a ruckus going on, and he makes his way into the cell, and there's Grogu, and he is throwing around these stormtroopers left and right using the Force, and it's just like he's got enough power to throw them around and knock him silly and knock him unconscious, and if he just Force choked him, he could kill him. But it's almost like he probably still doesn't understand like how he could just concentrate and use his powers to take him out in like one fell swoop. So Moff Gideon just kind of sits there and lets him essentially tire himself out, and then the little guy is just kind of like doubled over, and he's exhausted, and he's making this little sound. he almost sounds like a turtle in heat. Making this sound. And Moff Gideon goes up to him and he shows him the Darksaber, and he's just like, no, you don't want to put your eye out. He's mocking him. He's being a real dick about it, he's like, you got pretty good using those powers, but they make you really sleepy. And you can see he's reaching out to him, and he's trying to like muster up the strength to attack Moff Gideon. And at that point, they just hit him with a stun blast, knock him out, and they put these tiny little shackles on Grogu. Like, who even knew they made shackles that tiny? I guess they're, for creatures like Salacious Crumb or something to that effect. So the episode pretty much ends with, Grogu in shackles, and then Moff Gideon finally having the asset, tells them that to get in touch with the doctor, and then they could just continue on with their experiments. And that's pretty much it. So that's the end of the episode. And man, I thought it was really good. It was a lot of action. To me, it felt like the penultimate climax of an actual movie, right? Like where you're in the home stretch almost, or you're past the halfway point, and your heroes they arrive at a certain location or a certain point in the movie where there's going to be like some kind of big reveal, and you think they're going to get to the end of their mission. And then something goes wrong, and then they got to make that last final push, and that's this episode. It just felt like that, like a half-hour portion of this overall great movie that it's just been really exciting, and the story's unfolding, and you think that the heroes are right there, and then something happens, and then it changes the whole dynamic. And for the series, or at least for this season, this is an episode where it changes the whole dynamic, because where originally we had the Mandalorian, and he finds the child, he's protecting the child, and now he's on a mission this season to return the child to those of his kind. And it's kind of, some things have unfolded where his kind didn't necessarily mean his creature or the species that he was, but it meant the Jedi. And then he's still protecting the child, but he's trying to return him to the people that he's supposed to be with. And then all of a sudden it becomes this whole entire thing where now the child has been taken and now we have to rescue him, and it shifts everything, and it breathes new life into the idea of what we're doing and what the narrative is now with the story. And I like that, because I felt like, even though I've been just immensely entertained by this season and the show overall, I love it, I felt like we were kind of spinning our wheels a little bit, and this to me just kind of changes things and makes it feel fresh in a whole new way, because now the Mandalorian he's in pursuit. Whereas before he was the one who was trying to evade everyone, now he has to go after somebody to get the child. And I like that. I like that the dynamic now has shifted to where he's the one in pursuit. As far as Boba Fett, I loved it. I loved Tamora Morrison in the role. He's just like grizzled, and he looks like he's been swallowed up by the Sarlacc beast when he returns. I mean, his face is just banged up and scarred, and he's really vicious. I mean, the way that they have him fight, I mean, he's short-handed, he's brutal, he's vicious. I mean, he just like does not spare anybody. If you're in his sights, he's taking you out. It just doesn't matter, and he's extremely capable, and I love that about him. And I'm a guy who I love Jeremy Bulloch, who played the character on screen in the original trilogy. I love the voice of Jason Wingreen as the original Boba Fett character. I was never somebody who's really on board with taking Tamora Morrison. I was fine with him as Jango Fett, but I always thought that Boba Fett would grow into the Jason Wingreen voice and the Jeremy Bulloch type of build. And it's funny because Cobb Vanth, even though he looks stretched out in the armor from episode 1, he actually has more of that slight build like a Jeremy Bulloch from the original trilogy. All that being said, I'm at the point now where I enjoyed seeing Tamora Morrison back on screen in the Star Wars universe. And now, instead of playing Jango Fett, playing Boba Fett, I thought that was really cool. I like him as the character. I like the way that they portrayed Boba Fett. He's more badass in this one episode than he ever was in any of the movies combined. And I'm completely on board with this character, and I look forward to seeing him more on screen. I don't know if they're gonna. He looked kind of weird because he had that kind of black. The black robes and everything underneath the armor that he put it on. So I don't know if they're going to put him in a jumpsuit, or they're just going to keep him in the black uniform that he had, the robes and the jumpsuit and everything like that. So I don't know where they're going to go with that. I would imagine at this point, obviously he doesn't have the beige or tan jumpsuit that he had from Return of the Jedi. This armor that he's wearing is the armor from Return of the Jedi. The armor from Empire Strikes Back is different. It's all green armor. This armor it has a lot more color to it. There's the gauntlets are maroon color. The jetpack has several different variations of color. There is a difference between even the helmets as far as the two movies are concerned. So this is the Return of the Jedi armor that he is sporting in The Mandalorian. But all that being said, I really liked it. I really enjoyed Boba Fett, and I'm happy. I'm geeked up now that he's kind of a part of this team, and we're gonna get all of these characters kind of converging and coming together and going in and trying to save the child. And these last 2 episodes, this show is a kind of show where it's like it kind of goes like this. It doesn't follow a straight path through. Like you get these side missions and these stories that are kind of like some can feel a filler. Some would consider to be filler, and or bridge episodes to just get from one point to the next point. And like last season, when everything started to come together, we got those last 2 episodes, and they were really strong. They were as strong as the first 3 episodes, and we gotta have that here with these last 2 episodes, right? This has got to end with a big bang and then set up season 3. And after this episode, I'm really hoping that that's what they're building towards, and that there's not a detour, because I know we got to get Mayfield. They got to spring him to find Moff Gideon. If they're going to spring him, I hope next episode is like a 45-minute episode. They spend maybe 15-20 minutes springing Mayfield, and then it's the point where they're tracking Moff Gideon's ship, and maybe they even get on it, and then the last episode is like this full rescue, and we can have some kind of a real feeling of finality at least as much as we can hope before we set up whatever's going to happen with season 3. So anyway, look, good to see Fennec Shand back. Did not see that coming. And that just goes to show you with these episodes where there's these side shows or these filler episodes, these subplots, and then a character comes in and goes out, and then out of nowhere they're back into the fold, and they're serviceable, right? They play a big significant role, and Fennec Shand was a big part of this episode as far as just helping these guys fend off all of these stormtroopers. Now she's going to be a part of this whole entire party. It's going to try to get back the child, and I like the fact that there's honor amongst these characters. I like the fact that Boba Fett basically said, if I get my armor back, I guarantee you the safety of the child and yourself. And he held true to his word. You know, at that point, Mandalorian thought, no, that's it, mission complete. And he's like, no. I guaranteed you the safety of the child. So I still have a mission. We're in your debt. And I like that. I like the fact that these characters, they're not necessarily good guys, although we root for them, and they're not really bad guys, but they do have a code, and they stick to that, and their word means something. And that's something that you can hang your hat on, and I appreciate that. So anyway, that's what I got. Again, I really enjoyed this episode. Great action, a lot of fun. I thought Boba Fett was fantastic. I like the fact that the child was taken. Not that I like the fact that he's in the hands of Moff Gideon, but I like the fact that it changes the show, right? It makes it interesting. It moves the story forward in a direction maybe we didn't think was going to happen, and I like that. I like that we're going in a different direction now at the end, and it has me kind of like, all right, I'm ready. You know, bring on the next episode. So anyway, guys, a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down below. Did you like Boba Fett? Did you like how he's portrayed on screen? Did you think that he was badass? Did you like Tamora Morrison in the role? Do you like Tamora Morrison coming back as Boba Fett? Do you like the way that it makes for better continuity throughout the prequels, and then they've switched over to Tamora Morrison as the voice in the newer editions of the original trilogy, and now we get him here in the Mandalorian. So it's continuity straight through as far as the Lucas era films are concerned. I do appreciate that. Anything with the Lucas era as far as continuity is concerned, and paying respect to the original movies that George directed or wrote or produced, or whatever the case may be. So and that's pretty much it, man. So yeah, let me know what you think down below. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing. Of course, like and comment. It does help the channel out. And I will see you guys next week, episode 7. Looking forward to it. As always, be happy, be safe, be healthy. Have a great night, guys. Bye-bye.